Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara and today we're going to be looking at the mind of a Scorpio. So very excited to be getting into this video. This video is probably going to resonate with you if you have at least maybe even one Scorpionic placement. You guys might have a little bit of this energy going on behind the scenes, but regardless, if you have Mercury in Scorpio, Mercury in the 8th house, if the 3rd house for you is occupied by the sign of Scorpio, or maybe even if you have a Scorpio moon, 4th house occupied by the sign of Scorpio, this energy can resonate with you as well. If you're a cross watcher, welcome as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. What is going on in the mind of a Scorpionic person? The first thing that I'm going to say is it really depends as to what's going on with the rest of the natal chart. Let's say you have your moon in the 1st house. Well, in that situation, the energy is going to be expressed a little bit differently in terms of maybe having a harder time hiding how you're feeling in terms of your Scorpionic energy. And it might be a challenge because Scorpio energy does not like to be exposed. It doesn't like to feel vulnerable until it masters the energy. I will say that much. Once it masters the energy and it actually understands what's going on with itself, then it doesn't mind being open and sharing and all these types of things. But the worst thing for a Scorpionic person is when somebody else points out something that they have not analyzed about themselves yet. They feel very much exposed because it's like there's a little bit of an ego going on with this energy. It's important to understand this as well. For all of the fixed signs, honestly, they all have a little bit of an ego going on. This isn't a good or a bad thing. I feel like when we say someone has an ego, automatically we think that it's something negative. It's not. It just means that these individuals can be stubborn. They can be set in their ways. They can see things sometimes with blinders on, especially for Scorpionic people. When they know something to be true, nobody can really budge them because it really resonates with them on an intuitive level. But sometimes this can be to their detriment because sometimes they might not be seeing the full picture in a particular situation. Sometimes the energy can go into the shadow where it's like they might think that they know everything. And this can really affect you in your day-to-day life because maybe there's an easier way to do something, or maybe there's more options, or there's like a broader story. So this is a challenge for that Scorpionic energy, especially once again, if you have the mind of a Scorpionic person, because it's like once it's decided, it's really hard to budge these people because it mainly resonates for them on an intuitive level. That's the whole thing to understand. These people are going to be very emotionally intelligent. That's personally why I like Mercury in Scorpio, Mercury in the 8th house. They are going to be natural psychologists. They're going to know absolutely everything about human behavior. Even if they don't find the words to express it yet, they're going to know it on an intuitive level. Once again, it's all about the energy behind everything. You definitely can't lie to this energy. I'm sure you guys have heard that several times with Scorpionic energy, but they're always feeling into things. No matter what the person is saying to them, they're always picking up on what's going on with the undercurrent of energy. That is really what's going on with Scorpionic energy. A lot of this is tied to feminine manipulation when they were growing up. So when I say feminine manipulation, it doesn't necessarily have to be just the mother or the grandmother, although most of the time it might be within the feminine line, but overall it's just the energy, what I'm referring to when I say feminine energy. So whoever was that dominant feminine role in your life, this is maybe where you were either manipulated by this person, maybe there was some sort of emotional manipulation, covert emotional manipulation, and it's always very hidden. That's the thing with the Scorpionic energy, and that's why it might be very difficult to pinpoint exactly what it was. But this is why these people become very hyper aware. They start to rely on their intuition because there's something in their environment when they are growing up that's not adding up. It doesn't make sense. Something maybe that, again, one or both of the parents is saying to them, and it's not necessarily aligning maybe with the actions or the energy behind it. So this is kind of how the Scorpionic person develops as time goes on. And then in their mind, they're always analyzing. They're analyzing every single situation. They're energetically analyzing you without even realizing that they're analyzing. Now, it depends as to what version of Scorpio you are in. I'm sure many of you have heard there are 3 versions of Scorpio. Some people say 7. Some people say different animals. The way that I see it is there's a little scorpion with a stinger. This is probably when you're going to be in the most self-preserving state. This is when you can go even into paranoia, overthinking, wasting a lot of mental energy, because again, you are trying to preserve yourself. You're trying to preserve your safety. So you're always thinking ahead. Regardless, you're always thinking ahead. But basically, you want to go into the divine version of this energy where it's working in your favor. It's in a positive sense, not in the sense where it's like you're constantly thinking about everything, all the different outcomes for all the different situations. It can be very draining. But that's the thing with the Scorpionic energy, especially when they're more underdeveloped. They're kind of always trying to mentally prepare themselves so they're not surprised, because once again, there's something that took place in their environment when they were growing up where they were surprised and they're caught off guard. And it's very much a hit to their ego because it's like, again, they know energy doesn't lie. So it's kind of like if they kind of get caught off guard, it's going to be really intense for a Scorpionic person because it's like they feel like they pick up on everything. They're psychic, they're intuitive, whatever term you want to use. They're always picking up on energy. So it's really, really hard to trick this person, to lie to them, to maybe even throw a surprise party or something of that sort. Like you would have to work extra hard to surprise them in any way, shape, or form. Let's say we're going more so in the positive direction of surprising, not so much the negative direction of surprising. So this is probably why betrayal energy hits the Scorpio energy even harder, because it's like they are always prepared. You know what I mean? They think that they know everything, and most of the time they do. That's the thing. This is how Scorpio people think. It's always very much ahead of the game. They're playing chess. That's the thing. And with that being said, Scorpionic people are going to be very, very good at chess, okay? Because again, they always pick up on what the other person's thinking. They think of all the possible solutions and all the possible outcomes. And honestly, this skill, I think everyone should have personally, because it makes everyone's life so much easier when you are able to equip yourselves 10 steps ahead. But again, you don't want to go into the shadow of this where it's like it's for every single thing and every single situation, and even the smallest decision, you guys are kind of calculating the 10 steps ahead. You're going to be interested in the metaphysical world, looking at things from a higher perspective. I would say that is a more so evolved Scorpionic person, where they understand that everything has a time and a place and everything is kind of happening in a particular order. So that's a huge thing that you guys might have to overcome in terms of the mind of a Scorpio, is overthinking, going out of that fear-based, self-preserving type of vibe into more so the feeling, the trusting energy of it, the divine version. I would say this is the divine version of Scorpio. So we have a little Scorpio and it goes into the ego, where you kind of see things from a higher perspective, and eventually you are in the Phoenix rising state, where you are the alchemist. You are transmuting energies left, right, and center. That's very much Scorpionic energy when it's in its divine version. Also, when the Scorpionic energy is in the shadow, they could kind of feel like people are against them, or people don't like them, or people are out to get them, or they can even internalize other people's triggers and think that they are their own. So as I always say in a lot of my videos, it all comes down to developing and building a strong solar plexus chakra, realizing what your own energy is, and having the confidence in who you are as a person. Also, on the topic of a mind of a Scorpio, you guys are going to very much be blunt. This is a whole thing. And the thing is, with Scorpionic energy, they know exactly what to say at the right moment, so people around them will remember it. So it has a bigger effect. Sometimes Scorpionic energy, once again, when it's in its lower versions, if you do something to them and they don't like it, they're not going to address it right away because they think about things. This is the most important thing to understand. Scorpionic energy is very calculated in the sense where it's like, it's not impulsive. It's not emotionally impulsive. This is important to understand. They're not emotionally impulsive. They are going to take that thing that you said to them that maybe they didn't like and say it to you at the perfect time for you to remember that forever. This is something that Scorpio energy does. Once again, it can be in the shadow when Scorpio is in the lower versions, where it can come out as a snide comment or a jab, or trying to like really throw something into someone's face. Because keep in mind, Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars. So Scorpio energy, it's a very challenging energy, especially when it's in its lower versions, because not only was it ruled by Mars, it's also ruled by Pluto. So with it having both of these rulerships, honestly, if a Scorpio person is in the shadow, it can be emotional damage, it can be psychological damage as well, because they pick up on other people's triggers, other people's issues, vulnerabilities. And when they are in the lower versions of themselves, unhealed in the shadow traits, they really can throw these things into people's faces. Okay, this is important to understand with the Scorpionic energy. This is something that can very much take place. Once again, they go through a lot of transformations, and the end goal is to get into that Phoenix rising state. You're never going to be 100% healed, but getting as close as you can to at least having the awareness. Another thing with Scorpio energy that's important to understand is that it deals with power and control. So once again, they are self-preserving, and they're always going to feel more balanced if they are in control of their situation, of their circumstance. I mean, I've heard certain Scorpionic people say things like in relationships, they want their partners to be obsessed with them, which is interesting because honestly, Scorpio energy deep down inside is looking for a mind, body, spirit connection. So I would say when people say things like this, once again, it's coming from a wounding. It's coming from a place where they maybe didn't get that when they were seeking it, when they were younger, they got burned. So they're trying to stay in control of situations. It's really, really interesting because you'll see a lot of Scorpionic people who are in positions of power. I'm not going to name anybody in this video because honestly, like, I'm not trying to put these people on a pedestal. But you'll see these people either in positions of power, or like even some actors and actresses have Scorpio energy going on in their natal chart because they want power and control and they like the luxury. That's the thing that people don't talk about Scorpio energy enough. I mean, I always mention it in my videos, but like Scorpio people love luxury, and you will see when you start to look at people's natal charts that certain individuals who are in higher places, higher echelons of society, in, you know, these types of groups, actors, actresses, etc., these people have Scorpio energy going on somewhere in their natal chart. And because they are natural psychologists, psychologists. They are going to know what to say to who to get you where they're trying to go. This is the most important thing to understand with Scorpionic energy. They already know what you are going to say before you even say it, honestly, especially if they are a higher developed Scorpio. It's almost as if they can read your mind, is really what's going on. So sometimes they can even be basing their reaction on what you're going to say, or sometimes they can even set you up. They know what to say to get the information that they need out of you. This is very much Scorpionic energy. Honestly, it's a private investigator sign. They know what to say. They can read a person. They know what to say to get a certain type of information. If they're fishing for information out of that person for whatever reason that they need, they will know what to say. It takes one to know one. Okay, so when you kind of got two Scorpionic people engaging with each other, they might kind of be picking up on the other's vibes, especially if they're more developed. They might call each other out, where it's like, why didn't you ask me what you wanted to ask me? Like, you were kind of trying to set me up in your Scorpionic way to get the information that you want out of me. Like, that's something that can take place with the mind of a Scorpio as well. So it can kind of become like a habit after a while. So it's interesting because Scorpio energy can be blunt. Yes, it can be cutthroat in terms of even their communication sometimes, but also the Scorpionic energy can be very subtle. Like, you're not going to know that this individual is basically sometimes manipulating you. That's the thing. There's no better word to use, unfortunately, other than manipulating you to get certain information out of you, to get a certain outcome. Even in dynamics, okay, another thing that can happen with the Scorpionic energy is, like, even if there's someone that they think is attractive or they're interested in that person or maybe they want to date them, I think because they deal with psychic energy and intuitive energy, it's kind of like they send the telepathy to the person for the person to approach them. That's the thing to understand as well. So they're very well aware of this. Once again, the more developed that they become, it's important to understand that with a Scorpionic person in their mind, there's always an end goal in mind. They're trying to get to some sort of end goal. Now, the end goal is going to depend on the rest of their natal chart. Maybe it's the type of career that they're trying to pursue, or maybe it's a project, or whatever it is. They have some sort of end goal in mind, and they're going to be strategic. They're strategic, they plan, they know what to say, when to say it. It's very self-aware energy, and the root of it all, like I mentioned at the beginning, is preserving the self. And sometimes, because Scorpio loves money, it bounces off of Taurus. It's the money access. Money is also always going to be on their mind, because money equals power and control. They are always playing chess in every situation. They're calculating in their minds at all times. Okay, if I go today, well, then that can happen, and then that's gonna happen, and then that's gonna happen. Like, this is just how the mind works, like I said, naturally. It's almost like they're always doing a cost-benefit analysis of their entire life in every situation, and it kind of depends as to what they value. If they value their time and their energy, then they're going to be like, okay, is this worth my time if I do this and then it leads to that and then it leads to that, or is it worth my energy, or is it worth my money? The stronger boundaries you develop, a strong solar plexus chakra that I mentioned earlier, the more you'll go into this energy of calculating and being like, okay, is this worth this? Is this worth that? Because a Scorpio person is very, once again, confident in terms of their ego. They really, really think they're the best. Like, I almost want to say that, yes, Leo has an ego, Aquarius has an ego, but I almost want to say that out of all of them, Scorpio has the biggest ego in terms of thinking that they're the best, in terms of like valuing themselves, especially when you guys get to that point where you have that strong solar plexus chakra. But it's always kind of there, it's always low-key happening behind the scenes, and then as time goes on, you start to value it even more and more. And I think the reason for this is that Scorpionic people really put all of themselves into absolutely whatever it is that they do. If it's a relationship, if it's a job, if it's a project, if it is a friendship, like whatever it is, they put their whole selves into it. And it's like, because they're putting like 110% of their energy, and like they kind of really learn their partners, and they really learn their friends, and they really learn even like the job and like the needs of those around them. When they get betrayed or they get burnt, you're done. That's important to understand. Like, you're going to be cut. This is another thing, even with how Scorpionic people think, because they kind of feel like they've put so much of themselves into whatever the situation is. If they get burned or betrayed or disrespected, it also comes down to disrespect. If they feel like you've crossed them in any of these ways, they're gonna cut you out, and it's gonna happen in a heartbeat. But I guarantee you, to the person or the people, it's going to seem like it happened so abruptly and like it happened in a heartbeat. But really, for the Scorpionic person, again, cost benefit analysis. It's been accumulating over time. Maybe they tried to speak to you, behaviors didn't change, whatever it is, and then it's like when they're done, and there's no coming back. That's what I would say. Also, what a Scorpionic person can do, once again, when they're a little bit more in the lower versions, because Scorpio can be vengeful, they can take you back. But keep in mind, it is not with good intentions. These people are taking you back just so you can feel the burn even harder. This is something that can happen, because it's like when they're emotionally or energetically done with the situation, they're done. So even if they're taking you back, it's probably with some sort of ulterior motive to throw it in your face, to make you feel the burn, to make you feel the loss even more. Keep that in mind, okay? Once again, this can happen when they're more so in their lower versions, but it can be even more covert because of the fact that Scorpionic energy is very calculated. You will never be able to pinpoint and say like that person planned that. That's important to understand as well. Once again, they're playing chess out here all the time. And also keep in mind they are fixed. So once a decision is done, it's done. One more thing that I also want to mention in this video in terms of the mind of a Scorpio is the test that Scorpionic energy puts people through. Scorpio energy values loyalty. They really feel like they put all of themselves into situations in terms of their relationships, interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, all their relationships. They really do feel like they put all of themselves into these dynamics. So if you're trying to get into the Scorpio person's inner circle, they are definitely going to be putting you through tests, and they're going to be seeing whether you are worthy to actually enter that official circle. Now, what I mean by this is Scorpio people can have a lot of friends because they are very good at psychology and they understand people. They'll be very understanding. They can understand how people are and keep them at an arm's length. Like, say they're like, that person's a little shady. You fall into the shady category in terms of the Scorpionic person. They can still interact with you. It's just a Scorpio person will give you the same energy back. That's the whole thing. So they're kind of compartmentalizing people as they meet them. You know, where does this person go? And they can have a lot of acquaintances, but to enter that official circle, the group of friends or their closest friends, or even maybe their partners or romantic partners, you're going to be put through a lot of tests in terms of testing you to see what's going on. Maybe how are you reacting in a situation? Are you able to keep their information private? Are you going to share their information with everybody? Because the thing is, Scorpio energy, they talk about Scorpios being secretive. It's not that they're secretive, they're private because they're very well aware how the metaphysical planes work and how energies work and how this can interfere maybe with their plans or their goals and all these types of things. So with that being said, if they have a friend who's kind of like a gossip type of person around them, they're probably not going to allow this person into their full-blown inner circle. Like, they can once again still be friends with them, but you're kind of going to be at the acquaintance level. You're not going to be in that inner circle where the Scorpio person is going to be like, this is a legit friend, or this is a legit business partner, or this is a legit partner overall, like whatever category it is. It's really interesting because Scorpio energy and Virgo energy is kind of similar in terms of analysis, but they analyze things differently. So in the Scorpio's mind, there's kind of all these compartments, you know, it's like, okay, this person belongs here, this individual goes here, that person goes there, this is how this type of person behaves, that's how that type of person behaves. They're going to be very good at reading people and even their faces and their facial expressions and all these types of things. So they're going to be like, okay, that type of person acts like this type of person acts like this, because really what you're doing is you're starting to recognize patterns and you're creating kind of like this internal repertoire of human behavior, but then eventually it turns into a gift, so you guys can kind of channel this energy whatever way you want to. So overall, this is a mind of a Scorpio. They're always playing chess. Cost benefit analysis is what's taking place. They're psychic, they're intuitive, they have that energetic repertoire within their mind of how people behave, human behavior. They're putting people through tests to see where these people belong, and they're always going to be 10 steps ahead. That's the most important thing to understand. And a lot of this is rooted in power and control. The end goal for a ideal Scorpionic person, a person who's in the divine Scorpio version, is the alchemist, is the transmuter of energy. It's that Phoenix rising state where you are transmuting the energy around you. So with all of that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed my video on the mind of a Scorpio. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.